She was in pain, but she wanted it too much. The sun hung low over the Kansas wheat that late summer day, golden and heavy like it had been in 1958 when Harold first learned to drive the old Ford tractor. He was 62, now, knees creaking a little more each season, but the land still knew his step. He rode slow along the back section on Captain, the big sorrel quarter horse that had carried him through 30 harvests. Something caught his eye far out where the field met the sky, a shape moving. Wrong. Harold nudged Captain forward, not rushing, just steady, the way you do when you have seen enough of life to know hurry rarely helps. As he drew closer, he saw Hera, woman maybe 35, sitting in the stubble, her pale legs stretched out in front of her dress, what was left of it, clung damp to her skin, torn at the shoulder and hem. She held one ankle gentle, like it might break if she squeezed too hard. Her face turned up when she heard the hoofbeats, eyes wide and wet, but not crying, not yet. Harold eased down from the saddle the way his daddy taught him long ago. Swing the right leg, slow, keep the weight even. He left the reins looped over Captain's neck. Horse would stand. He always did. You hurt bad, ma'am? He asked, soft voice low. The way you talk to a spooked calf. She tried to smile. Felled. I think it's broke, she said. I stepped in a badger hole running down. See it till too late. Harold crouched careful beside her, his shadow falling across her like an old quilt. He looked at the ankle, already swelling purple under the skin. He had seen worse on men who kept walking anyway, but she was city soft. He could tell hands that never pulled wire or pitched hay. Still, something in her eyes reminded him of Ruth when they were young, that same stubborn fire that said, I will finish what I started even if it kills me. Why were you running out here? He asked, not prying, just wanting to understand. She looked past him to the horizon. I needed to get away, she whispered from everything back there. My husband, my job, the noise in my head. I thought, if I could just walk far enough, I'd leave it all behind. Silly, I know. Harold nodded. Slow. He knew that feeling, had it himself. The winter Ruth passed when the house got too quiet and the nights too long. He had walked these same fields till his boots wore through. Walking don't fix it, he said, but sometimes it keeps you breathing till the fixing starts. She laughed once, short and pained. I guess I walked too far this time. Harold studied her face, saw the wanting there, not just to be free of pain, but to prove something to herself, maybe that she could still choose hard things, that she hadn't gone soft inside. He recognized it because he had lived it, still lived it. Some mornings when the coffee tasted like ash and getting out of bed felt like lifting the world. He reached slow and touched the swollen ankle with fingers that knew every bone in a cow from years of birthing. Calf's bed sprain, he said. Maybe a crack needs ice and wrapping and a week off it, but you already knew that, didn't you? She nodded. Tears finally coming now, sealing down her cheeks. I can't go back yet, she said. Not like this, you'll say. I told you, Suthy'll say. I told you, Suthy'll say. I'm weak. I just wanted one thing that was mine one morning. I decided all by myself. Harold sat back on his heels, the wheat whispering around them like old women at church. He thought of Ruth again, how she had wanted one more ride on Captain. The spring the cancer came, how the doctor said no, how Harold had lifted her up anyway, gentle as sunrise, set her in the saddle and led the horse slow around the corral while she smiled like a girl. That ride didn't cure her, but it gave her back one piece of who she had been, and that was enough. He looked at the woman now, the same hunger, not for danger but for proof that life still listened when you asked it for something. You ever been on a horse? He asked. She shook her head. Scared of them when I was little. Harold Stortiford, his hand big and rough and steady. Come on. Then just to the truck, it's parked 2 sections over. Captain can carry us both easy. She stared at his hand, then at the horse'll hurt worse if I move you. LL hurt worse. Sitting here till dark, he said. Gentle sun's dropping, coyotes will start singing soon. He'd rather not leave you to them. She took his hand. He pulled her up slow, let her lean heavy into him while she found balance on the good foot. She was shaking, not just from pain, from the size of what she was trusting. He felt it the way you feel a storm coming in your joints. Easy now, he said. I got you. He helped her hop the few steps to Captain. The horse turned his head, calm brown eyes asking nothing. Harold put his hands on her waist, lifted. She weighed less than a bale of hay, settled her sideways across the saddle, her hurt leg dangling free. She gripped the horn. White knucklehead swung up behind her, reached around, slow to take the reins, his arms making a quiet circle she could rest against if she needed. There now, he said, just breathe. Captain knows the way home. She let her head fall back a little, resting on his shoulder without meaning to. He smelled like coffee and hay and honest sweat-soaked smells, old smells that said the world still had gentle corners. They moved off, slowed, the wheat parting like it was glad to see them. She closed her eyes. The rocking of the horse under her was strange and wonderful, like being carried by time itself. After a while she spoke soft. My name's Margaret. Harold smiled against the brim of his hat. Pleased to know you. Margaritum Harold, this here's Captain S. Older than you are and twice as wise. She laughed again. This time it didn't hurt so much. You didn't have to do this, she said. You could have called someone, left me for the sheriff. I could have, Harold said, but my phone's in the truck and, besides, sometimes folks need carrying before they need explaining. Tuesday rode quiet, then sun, painting the sky the color of Ruth's favorite roses. Harold thought about the years, how kindness wasn't always loud. It was just a man and a horse and a hurt woman riding double through the stubble. Sometimes it was choosing not to ask too many questions, letting silence do the mending. When they reached the truck, he eased her down into the passenger seat, trapped the ankle tight with the ace bandage he kept in the glove box, gave her water from the jug he always carried. She drank like someone who had forgotten she was thirsty. I can take you to the clinic in town, he said, or I can take you home to the ranch. Old room is made up, no one's used it since she passed. You can rest there tonight. Ice that ankle proper. Call whoever you need to call when you're ready. No rush. Margaret looked at him long, like she was trying to see clear to the bottom of something. Why? She asked again. Why help me like this? Harold closed the tailgate, leaned against it, tired and sure, because 40 years ago, a girl with laughing eyes wanted one more read, and I was lucky enough to give it to her, because sometimes wanting something fierce is the bravest thing a soul can do, because the land teaches you vi break your mend. If you fall, you get carried on. Then one day you turn around and do the carrying. That's all. He walked around, climbed in beside her, started the old Chevy. It coughed once, then settled into its familiar rumble. Margaret leaned her head against the window, watched the fields slide by, golden and endless and kind. Thank you, Harold, she said, voice small but steady. He reached over, patted her hand, once warm and quick, then put both hands back on the wheel. And no need for thanks, Margaret, just rest easy, nowhere, almost home. And they drove slow down the dirt road, dust rising soft behind them, to strangers who weren't strangers anymore, carrying each other gentle the way the best parts of life always do. The porch light was on when they got there, the way it had been every night since Ruth left, waiting. Harold helped Margaret inside, settled her on the couch with pillows and ice and the quilt Ruth had pieced the year their son went to Vietnam. He heated soup on the stove, the kind his mother made with tomatoes from the garden. They ate, quiet, talking some about small things, the way wheat looked before harvest, how Captain hated flies, how Ruth used to sing to the radio while she canned peaches. Later, he showed her to the back room, the one with the iron bed and the window that looked over the circling sheets and a lamp with a crooked shades. He sat on the edge, looked suddenly young and very tired. I was so scared out there, she said, not just of the pain of being alone with what I did. Harold stood in the doorway, hat in his hands. You weren't alone long, he said, and tomorrow will be better, and the day after that. That's how it works, one gentle day at a time. She lay back, the quilt smelling of lavender and sunshine. He turned off the light, left the door open a crack, the way Ruth always liked. In the kitchen, he poured himself a small glass of bourbon, sat on the porch steps, listened to the night settle, crickets and wind and the soft creak of the house, breathing. Captain nickered once from the corralo, was well inside. Margaret slept deeper than she had in years. The ankle still hurt, but the wanting had eased into something quieter, something like peace. And Harold sat a long time under the stars, thinking how kindness comes back around, how a man can spend his whole life learning to carry, only to find out the real gift is letting himself be carried sometimes too. The wheat waved in the dark, keeping all their secrets, and the old ranch held them both, gentle as morning, warm as memory, kind as the best things always are. When the sun came up soft and slow, Margaret woke to the smell of coffee, found Harold in the kitchen frying eggs, the way soldiers like them, over hard with salt and pepper and no fuss. She hobbled in on the crutch he had left by the bed, smiled when he pulled out a chair. Morning, he said. Sleep okay like the dead, she said, then caught herself, laughed soft, Seri, poor choice of words. Harold grinned. Eve heard worse. Hot eggs are coming, then we'll call whoever you need, or we won't. Up to you. She sat, wrapped hands around the warm mug, looked out the window at Captain grazing lazy in the corral, felt the ache in her ankle and the larger ache in her chest, easing. I think I'll stay one more day.